How much can you open up? How much can we share? Your life will become a bubble that you continue to reinforce with delusions until one day that bubble pops and the darkness is too much to handle. When I'm saying I was not in control, my brain could see what was happening. I was sobbing, 1 minute sobbing. Probably the most difficult conversation I ever had in my life. I was writing about this yesterday, and I really mean this, guys. There is some core level stuff that you have to be willing to interact with, but you have to interact with like you know it's core level stuff. Anybody who's done psychedelics, has been in an intimate relationship, will understand one thing. Both of them, you cannot hide, and you need to face core aspects of yourself and the beliefs that you have about reality that limit you. Those limitations are lies. They are fundamentally lies. They actually cannot exist in your life without misalignment of your life. You know, this is why, the embodiment of limitations isn't somebody who goes, I'm unlimited, I can do anything. It's like somebody who actually integrates that aspect of them with an understanding that they're unlimited. Now they're no longer living with blinders on their beliefs. And so, at the end of the day, guys, what we're really here to do, because we're talking about women, there's a lot of scarcity there. You're talking about, the deeper aspects of the human spirit. And, if you're a very intuitive, sensitive guy, I'm going to be honest with you. You will experience seeing yourself in a sexual space. Completely. And I promise you, the more that you open up, because look, a lot of you guys haven't done it. You've tried it, you've done it in doses, you've microdosed. But have you ever done a hero dose, right? Which is living life, open, vulnerable, integrated, true. There is a fundamental truth, no, and this is something you have to struggle with, right? And so every time we do beliefs, you have to remember there are ideals with your beliefs, right? I'm made in God's image. It's a belief I have. I'm made in the likeness of God. Whether you have that belief or you don't, you guys want to know the difference? So I met this girl the other day, covered in tattoos. She had a nose ring here, these gauges. She looked like she was like an Aztec witch, shamanistic healer. Oh my God, was her energy dark, but drawn to it. What part of me do I want to incorporate and love more? My darkness. Crazy. Hence, a lot of you guys all like a very particular thing and a particular subject and a particular person who talks about a particular thing that all revolves around aspects of human nature that are in the shadows that we so deeply want to love because we want to give that to others, but we struggle even giving that to ourselves, and even myself. I was with my coach the other week and he told me, hey, you talk about your shadow integration like it was like, that was chapter 2 of your book. He's like, brother, you're going to do that every day of your life for the rest of your life. Do you know the parts of you that are born into reality are in the form of the shadow. They're in the form of your darkness. They are birthed in that way. You look at Trip. What was one common theme? An incorporation, an awakening, an unveiling, a chaotic experience. It took you over. It integrated itself into you. Oh, shit. Well, there goes my old life. There goes hiding. But what are you left with? Is it just a trauma, a panic, a paranoia? No, what you're really left with is facing that experience, contextualizing it, writing it down, experiencing it, feeling it, seeing how that exists today and how it affects you today. And how, if you're still sleeping on your back, maybe start understanding where there's like, of course, there's a level of vulnerability in your life. There's a lack of control to these things, right? But it's not purposeless, it's not meaningless, but this is for you to face. And sometimes these things kind of pop up. So this girl I was talking to, and she was so, oh my God, like at a deep level, she rejected herself. And a lot of you guys have intensity. I'm sure you guys have gotten that before. Why you have an intensity. I notice intensity exists when you have an aspect of yourself that you don't fully embrace, that does not exist in peace inside of you. It doesn't. It's rattling. It's like hornets in a jar. It's in a jar though, and everyone's like, he integrated it. Everyone's clapping, It's like, no. Sure, but there's like a feral wolf on a leash. Yeah, it won't kill anybody because it's on a leash, but damn, I hope that leash doesn't snap. And really, somebody who's very, very integrated has even directed their intensity into passion. It's universal. It's steady waters. It's a tamed animal, not a ruthless one. And guys, when I speak about this, what's coming to mind for you? When I talk about nature that's in there, deep internal rejection. Go for it.
I just realized that everything that I was trying to fix in the other person was the parts of me that I needed to work on myself.
Yeah.
And trying to control them through an openness of thinking I was being rigorously honest in a detailed way, but it was really me not being honest with myself at the end of the day. And even though I'm sharing all these parts of myself and being honest, the deepest parts of myself I was hiding, for sure.
Yeah. So this is what we're talking about here, guys. We want to go even deeper. And by the way, you guys want to know what limits your ability to seek depth? Your beliefs about yourself and what you are composed of to be godly, meaning you have no limitations. Those layers of unveiling will be throughout the process of your life, and it will stop rolling because that will be it for you in this lifetime to investigate. We collectively do this as human beings, and this is something I've really found powerful. I want to be able to tap into an aspect of you guys that's universal. Can you look into another human being's eyes and see yourself in them? Not just the person you're having wild sex with, but every human being collectively. You know, I got invited to speak at this Jewish dating event. I'll tell you something about Jews. Whoa. Whoa. Their character sucks. Sucks. I haven't, if you've ever worked with them, they're going to ask for a discount. If you tell them to show up on time, they'll change the time last minute. Arrogance off the ass. And I say this as a Jew. And by the way, I've worked with Jews my whole life until I stopped and I became very wealthy. But I found this very interesting because there's been so much coming up to the surface, you know, meeting this Aztec Mayan shaman, being asked to speak at this event, and they told me it's going to be 500 people. We want you to speak there. Could you do Tuesday, the 17th of September? I'm down. Time and place, I'm ready. This is me. I love this stuff. Dating and values, woo! Come on, it's a field day, right? Felt some fear, for sure. I then get another message from them. Hey, so sorry, hate to keep changing the time up on you. Could we do the 19th? Yeah, 19th, same difference for me. As long as it's after this time, I can make time. Hey, so sorry. Totally said we can do the 19th. Could you do the 18th? I said, look, really quick, let me stop you while you're ahead. What the f***'s going on? I picked that day, stick to that day. If you want to switch this time, it's going to be the last time by which you switch the time. I told them my conditions. I want to record it, not on Shabbat. And I think you guys can understand why not on Shabbat. We're talking about Jewish values here. Why throw a f***ing event on literally the Sabbath, the day of rest? Like the lack of awareness also pissed me off. And by the way, I need you to pay attention here. Kind of get into those deeper triggers. Guys, your triggers are your gifts. I need you to tap into those. I promise you here, the only thing that stops you from investigating your triggers are your beliefs about what you're capable of achieving in your life, about what you can let go of, about who you can become is outside of the limitation of your own identity. Do you guys want to know where there's shame? There's attachment to identity. You know, a godly being constantly evolves and integrates their identity and disintegrates it constantly, expands it. It's not the same thing. You're not like, I'm, used to like sports cars. This is who I am. I'm badass and I run a cool restaurant, right? You're like, whoa, get rid of all that. Because that's the moment the adventure dies and then the shame starts to build, right? You guys have to remember this. It will catch up to you and hunt you down. Because you have to understand that, like, every story we've ever written has a hero's arc. There's an incorporation of tremendous greatness. Blew up, millionaire, hot wife, beautiful kids, muscular. 48 came around. Looking a lot like Robert Downey Jr. Going to jail. Getting drunk, all the insecurities, his father only incorporating drugs around every environment, and the only way he felt loved was when he could actually access that part of himself, and he's itching and he's scratching and he's trying to get sober, and then he meets Mel Gibson, like one of the most intense motherfuckers on planet Earth, right? Okay, you can kind of say like it's kind of existing here a little bit for you guys, and it's like, well, what is it he anchoring him to? Something beyond himself that constantly expands, that has no limitation, is the belief that sets us all free. And so I get a call from the event again. The president gets on the call and he goes, hey, so great to hear from you. Totally want you to speak at the event. He doesn't sound that sexy, not in a million years. But anyways, he then goes, we want you Saturday. Oh, you want me Saturday? Well, that's great. Why don't you want me Saturday for the rest of your life? Not going to happen. I said, I don't do Shabbats. Okay, Friday night. I'm like, are you an idiot? Like, do you even know your own faith? And that started to upset me even more, right? Because, you're being... It's like I can't even make it up, the level of disconnect that's existing across all institutions, across the board. And by the way, the absolute necessity to understand that the individual is more powerful than the community, because a community is not a community if there's no individuals in it. And so, like, let's be honest. If you guys had to put your hand up and name an institution that was absolute shit, you would be right. Who watched the presidential election debate? You? Yeah, you know, it looked like an Eric Andre show. Have you guys ever seen Eric Andre? Excellent comedy, okay? That's your country. More people watch Mr. Beast than the potential fate of their own country, right? Okay, there it goes, completely corrupted. People don't care. You know, you look at the Catholic Church and you look at the majority of the speakers. You know, this is something he pointed out to me. Majority of these guys are within their own they're within their own bubble. And I want you guys to understand this so that you guys can really dive deeper into this. What is a bubble? A bubble is when you don't accept the truth of your life and how you're spinning off into the void and you've strayed from the path. Across every culture, there's one thing in common. It's called halakha, the way, the path. In Eastern cultures, everybody understands this to be true. But what we love, what we absolutely hate, is accepting that perhaps maybe we have strayed. I'm going to tie this all in, everybody. A bubble is when you try creating a foundation, thinking that you haven't strayed and that you're on the truth. You build a foundation in chaos. There is no ground. It is a bubble that is reinforced by delusion. You know, we do this a lot. We have a lot of protective things. You know, I was a jet, an F1 jet. I don't know if that's an actual jet, but anyways, flying towards this wall, and I shattered like a bunch of glass. But there's a narrative behind this, you know? And what's the narrative? I get back up, right? Sure, there's a belief there. But let's take it even one step deeper. The event tying it into this, and I was noticing that there was fundamental aspects of shame in these environments, right? Like, they thought I was Jesus. That's why they kept changing the time. They said, we want a bigger turn up for you. Dude, I don't care if it's 5 people. I'll speak. Just on the days. Like, we could build a relationship. Doesn't need to be Valhalla tomorrow. A lot of us have actually built our lives in these bubbles that come crashing like glass when it hits the ground. Do you guys want to know the hardest thing to do in life? To develop a relationship with life to where you know you're straying, you're off the path, and that at least you can hold on to that little torch of truth and you come back to it. It's not something easy because we're going to stray. And I want you guys to put this first and foremost, because a lot of this program can get you high. A lot of it can make you feel like you're making unrealistic, like, oh my God, things are changing so quick. But what if you can change the way that you interact with this as a whole? And the term is called humility. And I know that people who have that are very, very powerful people. You know, arrogance isn't their downfall. And I noticed that when you guys can be forgiven for such terrible, monstrous actions, you know what you feel after you are? Humility. How could somebody love me that much? How could I even feel that much love for someone? How could I be forgiven? What I'm really getting into is how could you see yourself in other people to the point to where you don't hold yourself over them? This is the 2 big issues that people have. If they cannot experience emotions, here's the 2 big issues they have. For people that experience the emotions they don't want to experience, they pity. And when they can't experience the emotions themselves, they victimize. So they are the hero and the wounded warrior of their story. They somehow were the builder of the house and the one that also burned it down. Yet they still walk away with the arrow in their knee as they look off into the sunset and they're like, I did my best, even though they didn't do shit. They ran. They ran like cowards. So this Inca Aztec chick, wild girl, I'm talking to her and she's like covered completely head to toe. And I could feel this like intensity from her. It's like she doesn't know that what she is can be embraced at a divine level, an eternal level. She's been to this retreat, to that retreat, this thing. Now she's a shamanistic healer. And it's like all of these things, but this person still can't seem to get a grip on themselves. Have you guys ever seen that? And it's like, well, I'll tell you one thing here. There's a serious amount of identity associated to the spiritual work you're doing. Holy shit. Of course you're feeling shame. And so I wrote this down. As I spoke with her, I realized, like, this woman hates everything about what it is to be a woman. She hates it. Her whole identity has become about being this feminine goddess. But what's the one thing that she rejects about herself the most? Her feminine. She still does, on an eternal level. And I noticed that if your belief systems do not line up with a divine ideal, shame is all you will experience. Because what you will find when you unveil yourself is monstrous depths and capacity that will make you shudder to your very core. And we talk about psychedelics, we talk about intimate relationships. What do both of those things have in common, gentlemen? Both of them require you to open up to parts of yourself that you will not be able to interact with if your belief system does not sustain it. There is a very popular Talmudic, speaking of Jewish culture here, a Talmudic story where three of these elders met God, or they thought met God. One of them lost their mind. I mean, all of them lost their mind to one extent or the other. But I believe there was one that was able to interact with it and understand what he was experiencing. One of them went to like another dimension, and what they saw was what they thought was God having sex. And immediately he's like, F all of this, fuck you, and fuck everyone in the room, I'm out. This whole, the yarmulke, the turban, whatever they would wear 2,000 years ago, bullshit. Lost his mind, went mad. Yet there is something so deep inside of us that actually desires to find out, like, what is this about? But I feel the way that we go about it is just the tragedy of the 21st century. Why? And at what point will we ever start investigating these things with an understanding that there is something beyond ourselves that is infinite, that we are created in the image of? You want to know something that was actually beautiful before man was created? Was that line. Because if you do not have that at your very core and your very essence, everything that you are, you will reject or perform outside of. So, I was thinking about it. I was like, damn, why are Jews so neurotic? Why is it they can't make a time? Why are they making such a big deal out of this? Just stick to the time. I don't like to be flaked on. I realized, if you were given a narrative of chosenness at your very birth, and by the way, if you guys are Americans or have experienced a Judeo-Christian culture which exists across the whole world, you are familiar with that narrative. That means you'll be exposed to excellence, but you'll also be experiencing what it is to be that, and forgetting the darkness that comes with being excellent. You're telling me that you're not going to reject everything about yourself? You absolutely are. And I realize that without a divine frame, guys, you guys are so lost. Without an understanding that, wait, these are aspects of the human spirit that are made in the image of God, and the anthropomorphy of God, the hand of God. What is it to have a heart without one? What is it to have eyes without them? These things symbolize something so much beyond ourselves. Sight without eyes, love without heart, crazy, right? A hand without a physical formation of it. A mind without a brain. We understand that these things exist outside of us, right? And so when we're doing a lot of this deep work, what stops us from diving deeper is that we believe we will see something that will challenge the beliefs that we have. Remember, you guys have much bigger issues if it is. So because there's a lot of the whole thing, like, why would I strive to creating a sense of authenticity if I didn't believe that that was true for me and that there was a woman made for me as a man? I have a belief around it. If you look at the Adam and Eve story and the Genesis story, which I recommend, we're going to talk a lot about this more, it immediately gets into the framework that you need to have an understanding of before you go ahead and start experiencing life. It comes down to the fundamentals, the very pure fundamentals. God, have made you in the image of me, us collectively, man, animal, and spirit, and that's what we call man. And man is collective of masculine and feminine, and to understand that masculine needs to exist with a challenging, opposing force that supports him, feminine, and that they are actually not separate from each other, that there's a magnetism between them that pulls them together, then perhaps maybe there are beliefs about your life that you continue to live with that means that you don't get to experience that. You need to go deeper. Well, what's stopping you from going deeper? Well, it's a list of beliefs that you have about humanity as a whole, and perhaps maybe what you'll see that's not lovable. If it's godly, then of course it is. And sometimes it's hard to kind of see because we're physical, we're limited, we're animal in a lot of ways. Yet that too is what evolves the spirit. Somebody make sense of this. What is the core poisonous belief that has poisoned a majority of Catholics, Christians, Muslims? A denial of the flesh, a denial of your very being that is made in the image of God. It's all about transcendence of it, overcoming it. What is this culture? What have we created? There's no truth in that. There's an integration of it. To I don't know, put it aside, get rid of it, would be to eliminate the aspects of ourselves that challenge the spirit. That actually, through those things, we bring more spirit out, we expand. And it all comes down to these beliefs that have shaped us. They're passed down. And we think that it's just our parents' trauma. It's like, is it really your parents' trauma? Or is it the beliefs that they had about certain things in reality? And that falsehood poisoned you. And what are we trying to come back to here? Truth. You can't undo that trip. A lot of you guys can't undo the devastation of your childhoods. A lot of you can't undo the critical, harsh mother you had that drowned you, or the aggressive, overbearing, abandoning father. To incorporate both of those things, and to understand that both of those things are kept at the forefront of your life, would change the way that you live your life for the rest of your life. You would live it with humility. You wouldn't see one as bad or good, would you? You wouldn't start glorifying one unless you had attachments to it. And by the way, the basis of all insecurity are the attachments that you have to it. I was going to post this today. I think you guys were going to like it. And it was, you don't become confident by not having insecurities. You become confident by facing them. Can you tell me the wisdom in that? The deeper levels of wisdom. Confidence isn't something that just exists in your mere perfection as a human being relative to others. No, it's an understanding of your relationship to life and what you'd be willing to do for it. I worked with a client yesterday and she told me, my relationship with fear, Naftali, I don't know what to, I can't stand fear in my body. Fear is bad, fear is this. I helped her understand that these things actually allow you to gain deeper insight about yourself and to make yourself a real person, to develop courage, which is the one thing that allows us to have freedom. It gives us peace. And it's like, well, how could fear give you peace? It's the exact opposite. Well, by the mere facing of it, you actually experience peace. Peace is a transcendent experience. You know, she thought her whole life it never served her. Well, now she's going to start changing her relationship with these things. So, well, by the way, what is that belief that allowed me to tell her that? Well, if you're made in God's image, then fear is part of those things. Is this something you merely transcend or something you learn to embrace and you learn to come in with? I guess it's all about creating the appropriate avenues. When I was speaking with the Aztec girl, the Mayan shamanistic princess, whatever she is, I was looking so deeply into her and I could feel how much she hated herself. Not because it's imperfect, she's seen it, she's loved it too. But because the belief system itself has limitations. And this exists across the board. You ever guys think about, hey, what if I embraced my humanity, integrated it into these truths? I would be a little more patient, wouldn't I? I would start seeing the importance of perhaps even the trauma, the gifts and the triggers, the insecurities and the necessity for them. You hear me? I hope you guys know the good sex is when you guys take those insecurities and you bring them up to the front and you love them like they were your own children. You know, the real, beautiful, sacred sex is when you take the parts of you that you've had the hardest relationship with and you give it to the other person as they do the same. And you love it the way that you would. It's not something you just hand off. And that's what a lot of us do, unfortunately. No, it's just an exchange of that. And if you actually had that standard for sex, A, you'd be having way less sex, and B, when you do, you'd be deeply connected to the people that you share it with. Tying this all in so that you guys can really start understanding the importance and the intensity that I'm coming in here with, is that you have to start seeing how you live with these limitations in your life. And it's not just about how much money you can make, because that's of course like the classic self-help thing, but perhaps maybe what you are and the willingness to dive deeper into you. Let's make this about you in every single one of these experiences that you can connect to in the present, that you could be present, that you could flow with. You know, I guarantee you, Robert Downey Jr. wasn't thinking in the cellar, man, I'm gonna come up so big. No, they're struggling. They're unveiling aspects of themselves that they have a hard time interacting with. And look, as I keep doing this in my life, I start realizing like, oh my God, to be blessed with free will means that God in his way, in his fashion, has placed us in a reality to where we can reject him. That's called evil. The absolute rejection of good itself. Anything divine. Anything ideal. It's satanic. He created that. You understand how insane that is? That like in this, whatever pursuit you guys have that your soul deeply connects to, you've been placed in a position to have something that's called choice. And you know, something interesting about a relationship or about a shroom trip is the shroom trip really shows you the relationship you have with yourself and the distance that you create with aspects of yourself that you've been running from naked, right? Vulnerably running from. It's like, come on, face it at least, you know? There was something very interesting. I had this dream once where I was in this Malibu hills, completely, probably about 200 miles away from the nearest city, but there was this castle overlooking the ocean. And there were so many, Joe Rogan was there, all these successful people were there, it was a red carpet, it was suited and booted, bring your green Porsche, look like $1 billion, come in there, but keep your chin high. You guys will be gods tonight. That was the theme. And of course a flood happened, you know, the ocean poured over into the castle as people were screaming, as from the back of the mountains, a volcano of water washes away the G-Wagons down the hill as we're in the middle of nowhere. Some of the biggest names resorting to the biggest clowns in seconds and instants. And that whole dream, I was running from the flood. Down a hill, up a hill, tethering myself with a rope. And it's something so interesting is that if you wanted to know, I just needed to surrender to it. There was something I was avoiding in that experience, that you could be swept away by these things. You're not in control. You guys ever see something like an earthquake? I woke up this morning. Welcome to LA, everybody. I woke up, first thing I said was, go fuck, oh my God. It was literally shaking. And then I realized, okay, I'm not in control of any of this. Went back to sleep. It's so interesting, just let go of it. Yeah, okay, it'll kill me. How deep can you guys go? How deep are you willing to go? Some of you are willing to manifest that in your shroom trips. It scares the shit out of me, by the way. Do you know what also scares me? Intimacy. I want an intimate, loving relationship. No, you don't, mother. Because I'm hiding behind a chair. You guys want to test your beliefs? Try them out in real life. You want your faith to be real? Follow it by a leap. Well, now your beliefs become real, and now you guys start to exist outside of the limitations of the reality that you've created, the confinements that you've created, the limitations of even perhaps the stories and the identifications that you have. Think about how sad it is when a culture begins to identify with Seinfeld and atheism. What happened to what it was based on? Do you know what happens to a culture when it identifies with its trauma? It deteriorates. We're the Jews, always genocide. Well, now you suck, because now you're victims. Oh, we've been enslaved before. Okay, I know how this story goes. Why would you want to identify with those limitations and those effect on you to gain some sort of power and significance purely through your ego? Meaning it's just something that you hold over other people. There's been something that's been transformative inside of me. This group here is because we're opening up to the collective aspect of our spirit that sees us as brothers. Brothers to the point where we no longer just talk about it like, yo, good to see you. No, we open up like as if I was trusting you like I would trust me. And somehow that's contagious. A client called me yesterday and she's like, I don't get how you do this. How do you work with this many people and do you not lose your shit? I said, I trust them. And there's something so interesting. She was like, trust them? Yeah! They're with me. They're going to lead by example as I will. There's a level of faith existing outside of this. Women challenge us. Depth challenges us. Intimacy challenges us. This group is so rewarding because it's so challenging. Have you guys ever had a conversation, and this is something that just happened the other day with one of my friends, my best friend, somebody I love more than anyone in the world. I don't know if I love anybody more than him. And I did not know it would be one of my friends, and I definitely didn't know that it'd be a dude. But he recently got into a relationship, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with what we call the cum dungeon professionally. It's where you investigate another part of you. And it's the part of you that is most selfish, that is willing to do whatever it takes in order to investigate that part of you. I accept it. Any guy that gets into a relationship with a girl he really loves, I send them a leave of notice. Hey man, I love you. I'll be blocking your number now. My text will be turning green. I think it's better that way because it hurts to see those texts delivered as I don't get to see you for the next 6 months. And then you have all of your friends sign it with a red stamp. That's because you just want the best for them, right? And so, I did that. But then I noticed he kept coming in with pain, asking for my advice. And what would I do? Because I had, of course, I've been working on this. I want you guys to realize this. Like, things will change. You will look at yourself through the very eyes of others, and you'll realize how gifted you truly are. Do you know that's what a lot of us lack? Eyes. They lack vision. And we lack the eternal mirror of each other. We don't get to see ourselves because we refuse to look into others. It's like the number one rule: to be interesting, be interested. Like, to find your depth, look into others. It only mirrors what's in yourself. So, me and my friend, we've been very distant. I've had these conversations with him, and of course, if you ever had somebody who's in a space where they need compassion, it's your job to ask for it, A, number one, and B, if you didn't ask, tell them how it felt after when they gave you advice when you wanted a hug. I promise you. Welcome to, maybe you need to do that. Maybe you need to do that. It's not an easy thing to do because, your whole life there's an expectation for you to think that the way you help somebody is by giving them more guidance and discipline and endless amounts of pulling up. No. You know what brings people up? When they're loved, when they're down. Something changes. Their very essence transforms. It's within inside. It's a characteristic of humanity that is love for what it is, and that love drives us at a deep, deep level, and sometimes we need to see that, but you need to test it. And of course, it's when you're down. Okay, when did Robert Downey get help? When Mel Gibson said, hey, here's my hand. As you are, I want you to see the part of you that can be forgiven and can be loved. Of course people love Jesus. He's the symbol of acceptance. He's the integrated man-God being that you can be, that's chosen to. Well, that changed the world. I was almost scratching my head every time. I'm like, wow, what happened to the Jews? Well, I haven't done jack shit. Actually, truth be told, a lot of earlier Christians and Jews, there were very minimal difference. A very minimal difference. Joshua was another prophet. And that's how we understood it collectively. And it was a story that helps people reconnect to the foundation. The foundation of what? The 5 books of Moses, the things that transform people's lives. He was a revolutionary type, a one to show the deeper spirit behind the words. And that's something we definitely lost, a deeper connection. Well, start with yourself. You guys are all here. I want this to be the lecture of lectures so that you guys can rip it open and finally stop trying to be something, identify with something. That identity itself is the mere cycle. And it's not like so much the identity itself, like my name's Naftali Moses. Sure it is, but the things that we attach to because we feel so, God, it's just hard to walk alone. But that's where you transform. That's where your name changes. That's where the very essence of you becomes what you desire. So what can you guys do in order to change the very way that you live your life that allows it to be the most true without an attachment to the outcome so that you can actually finally start connecting to yourself and unveiling even deeper and deeper? What are the beliefs that really surround your life that make it very difficult to do so? Yes, my friend. So every time he'd be down, I would try to give him all of this advice, and I would forget that I'm emotional. And that's exactly what my mother would do to me. Naftali, what are you doing? You can't do this. You need to do this. Well, because she would always tell me what's important. But hey, when you're a kid and you're surrounded by boys in a boys' school, you want to experience some love for once, right? Well, that made me chase for it when I was older. It made me chase women like a beast. Do you actually want to know what made me challenge it? Realizing that men and women aren't designed to chase each other. There's a magnetism between us that pulls us together. And we get to live with our very being, and perhaps maybe even the lack of its completion, and that's a part of our individuality. And somehow the acceptance and the embrace of even that allows the partner to come in without an expectation, an appreciation, a connection. No longer this precious, greedy, nail-digging, but this connected, elevated, individual, collective with their feminine. Very beautiful. I've been working on this. So every time my friend would have this, I would keep giving him this advice, and it was, by the way, rock star advice. But if you're really listening to people, which is a very, very, very strong characteristic, and I want you guys to write this down for the rest of your life. Strong people can listen when criticized, when having the difficult conversations around their insecurities. You want to know the hardest thing in the world? His mother was about to jump on his throat, but she knew that, A, because you've been leading by example, that wouldn't have been constructive. Sometimes all you guys can do when you listen to people is feel loss, sadness, pain, insecurities come up to the surface. And I remember just the other night, I gave him a hug, and when I gave him a hug, this is my best friend, it felt like hugging someone who was afraid of me. Afraid of me? I love you, that's scary. And if I really think about it, people that I've been intimate with aren't people I've had sex with. Well, that's kind of sad. Maybe I'm trying to learn that. In this interaction with him, I was so angry. I was so angry. I was so frustrated. I was so hurt. Because he was looking at me like I was a version of me. He was talking like when a friend talks about your Instagram videos, a close friend that was there before you even became a speck on the internet, you're kind of like, this was never our conversation. You never talked to me about the big things that are happening for you. You talked to me. And I got to be there for you, but right now I'm invisible. Oh my God, worst feeling in the world. To be what? Rejected. Just remember that, guys. And I was driving with my friend and I was getting super pissed. I was getting super angry. And I said, it's ridiculous. Ever since he got this girl, he's been creating more distance. And it's not even the girl. I'm just noticing that he's hanging out with other people, but he's not hanging out with me. What's going on? And I realized, what did I feel? Powerless. It's a thing that a lot of us don't like feeling. But if you can experience it and listen to it, you might identify what's really happening. So, confrontation, the number one rule to vulnerability. I speak about that a lot. I told him, hey, I know you're going to be leaving. I want to speak with you. And of course, in his head, it was, he's going through some things. I need to be there for him. No, he came outside, first thing, and by the way, probably the most difficult conversation I ever had in my life. I needed to take a deep breath. I don't know how this is going to go. Do you guys ever feel that way about life? You're made for something? I don't know how this is going to go. First time you became a dentist? Yeah, you're a dentist. I don't know how this is going to go. You ever kind of feel like the present is something you're actually not in control of? It's something that takes you and almost like kind of gently gives you a nice little wave, a little current behind your back. It's like you're connected to something beyond you. It's not like you have to speak. It's like, no, this is actually what I'm doing. In fact, I'm not even in control of this conversation I'm having with you guys right now. I'm connected to the very essence and the channel that every individual has in their life when they are in the present. Okay, the present is the only place by which you can start interacting with things that are divine. It does not exist in the past or the future. It does not exist there. It's deep, deep inside here, and it takes a serious amount of integration with fear, with darkness, with chaos, with the unknown, and you surrender to it. And so I was in that conversation. I was shaking in my boots, and I just tell him, I said, hey, the only thing you care about is you, and that makes me very happy. And I saw his guard went up and I went down. And I said, but we're not good. We're not. Well, there's a lot of trust in that. You got to present it. You know what most people do? What do you mean? We're so good. You're freaking out, dude. I've been paying attention. Keyword, by the way, for the rest of your life. If you ever have problems with people, pay attention. I sent them a text. They didn't answer. I gave them a call. They called back 3 days later. I got a call from my friend about you having dinner. I wasn't invited. I don't care about dinner or being invited. I care that we're good. And so, of course, we had the conversation. He was able to tell me, every time I had that conversation, I felt like I was rejected, dismissed, belittled. Whoa. Those are all the things I felt my whole life in relationship to intimate relationships. And you want to know the thing I also felt when I kept making things about me? Because I had limitations around my understanding, around my collective universality with other human beings, because I keep making things about me. That's your egocentricity. It's a form of protection. I realized that's exactly how I felt my whole life. And that, of course, if I had that happen to me when I was younger, what am I going to do to the people closest to me? Dismiss them, criticize them with harshness, and I'm going to be overbearing as I do it. And I was like, the most important thing that you guys can do, especially when it comes to interacting with the family, separate yourself from it to see how they see you and how you see them. When I say separate yourself from it, it doesn't mean disassociate, but it means stop making things about you. Let it go so that you can understand the cycle in your life that has been merely drowning you. And by the way, here's something very interesting. If you find yourself on a yo-yo of life, there's just some things you're not confronting at the bottom. You're sure, okay, you got wings to fly, but there's still a anchor and a leash at your heel that pulls you back down. And then sometimes you go, my wings don't work. Hey, we're not going to play that game here. No, you're going to address what's holding you back, and you're going to face it with maturity, with vulnerability, with honesty, with transcended belief, because that's the only way you can. And he started telling me, that's how he made him feel. And I told him how it made me feel when I couldn't be there for him. And he said it was his fault, that I should have mentioned how it made me feel the first time, not create distance with you. And I said, I forgive you. I'm sorry, I'm working on not trying to be reactive when I see the people I love in pain. And I said, the one thing I want to make sure for the rest of my life, I don't want to be somewhere where I can't love you. That hurts me too much. And I gave him a hug. When I'm saying I was not in control, my brain could see what was happening. I was sobbing. 1 minute, sobbing, telling him how much I love him. Second minute, sobbing. And then my brain was like, all right, that's enough now. That's enough. And it's like, yeah, you're probably crying on somebody's shoulder. Just be considerate. You can go back to crying. Nope, kept going. Not in control. That was completely opening up my heart. By the way, that's what we have here. It's a lot of open hearts. But you don't think that the world needs this? You don't think that we need beliefs to interact with each other at the level that we do? Just like getting hurt is going to be a part of life, but why not at least tending the wounds after you hurt others? That's not a perfect world. It's one where we accept our vulnerabilities and almost it's like we accept the rules of the game by which we need to play. If you're going to do BMX driving and try to take jumps, there will be broken legs, right? But at least let's have the ability to repair the broken and to continue to help those who love to continue loving. And of course, there will be pain, there will be heartbreak. In this conversation with my friend, I realized something. If you guys don't face the things that you need to face in your life with courage, in the face of fear, with fear, not only will you not be able to say the things that you really feel on your heart, your life will become a bubble that you continue to reinforce with delusions as you continue to stray from the truth, as you tell yourself you found it, until one day that bubble pops and the darkness is too much to handle and you keep running. And then your life is lived as a runner, not as somebody who faced the people they love and told them what they feel, who interacted with their depth and asked more from themselves and called to a higher power. No, you'll have nothing left but your past experiences being mirrored in your present for the rest of your life. There's a certain point where everybody is exposed to something outside of them, and I believe that the belief in God is the belief that I am born to be free and that I can choose. If you have that in your life, not only can you be loved for who you are, because who you are is divine, it's also made perfectly in its design, and designed for you to develop a relationship with it. And the animal within us is exactly what brings more from the spirit. It is the evolution that is necessary for all of mankind, for every individual who is living, breathing, and being right now. You know, after that happened, I realized I was like one of my clients, and that's the funniest thing to say. How do you be open with them? You know what I said to my friend? I said, he's not even going to tell me he's available tonight. No, he said, I'm available. I got time. Come on in. And then I was like, okay, you're right. I actually didn't want to be open. And there was something really beautiful happen. He told me, he's sorry, he never wanted to do that again. And he said he got to see his best friend again. And I got to be there for mine. He said, the leather jacket, the hair, the car. At first I wasn't recognizing anything. The projection was so heavy because I was trying to protect myself. And of course, we both came in with things. Do you guys want to know the most beautiful things that happen when you open your heart up and you get to almost investigate that into others, which is what we're doing here. Here's safe. You guys are good here. I can't promise out there. You're going to have to use your discernment, your intuition. You're going to have to deeply be spiritually inspired. I can't guarantee it out there. I then realized I got to see myself for the first time, gentlemen. For the first time in my life. I saw my sword, my blade, my capacity, my craftsmanship, my ability. That's what intimacy does. I always made things about me like, I said a few words, grow up. I was very insensitive. Well, when you have a sharp sword, don't swing it like you do. So it's been an opportunity for me to not only teach others, it's made me a better swordsman. And I think, there's something very interesting about the masculine in relationship to a sword. I really mean this, guys. I really got to see my greatness. And you guys all have excellence. And you're born to be that. Something called you here. And it's not just, great, learn more about me, stop being so f***ed up. It's like, no, it's the absolute individual experience. And if your guys are living as individuals, you are born to be great. And you are born worthy of unconditional love. And if you guys are just remembering one thing, you're going to spend the rest of your life learning how to love. What did I experience with my friend? My inability to. Because when he was hurt, what did I do? What I know. Well, that's not love. Love is beyond what you know. But because he was able to tell me the things, how that made him feel, I was able to learn how. And sometimes we just need the patience, the compassion, the understanding, the openness, the forgivingness. But let's be present when we do it. And that's all I asked him. I said, look, I can't guarantee this won't happen. I'm trying to be better all the time. I'll do my best, and I'll say it like I won't. But when we have a problem, let's get down to the bottom of it today. And I love how you guys think that, your greatness is not accessed today. It's within the very willingness of your ability to face the resistance of what the day has to offer. How much more that would reveal about your life, about yourself, about what you're capable of. How much more beautiful would your life become, even in its suffering? How much would it become just about the overall experience and what you can give to others? Not just what you can take from others. It's generally the thing that fulfills us deepest is to give. And of course, the centricity that's necessary in order to do so, to learn how selfish you are, is to give to oneself at the capacity that you can give to others. And we only learn how to give to others when we give to ourselves. And I'm sitting there on the curb with my friend with my hands on my face as tears are running down my eyes. And I'm realizing you're teaching me how to love. I know how to love now, at least better than I did before. And I'll spend the rest of my life learning how to do this. It's damn hard when you're aware, you have intellect, you have capacity. I just don't know any other way about how we're going to do it until we're able to at least be willing to just put some things aside for once. Let some things go for once. Interact with the thing that keeps coming up, but this time stop making it about you. Face it. See what comes to mind. Listen. In that conversation with my friend, he sent me some of the most beautiful compliments. I could receive them that day because I was open to receive them. The day before, not quite. I had a big event and I wasn't quite feeling it. Gentlemen, what do you guys think? What do you guys feel about being able to live your life like as if it's yours and it's the only thing you have? Like as if you died at 12. If you can create that presence and you could also live forever, who would you be? You know, my friend was telling me yesterday how this one girl at a restaurant that he was super turned on by, this waitress that he goes and sees, and he's a very sensitive guy. My friends are super unique individuals. Strong, sensitive guy. Very sharp, intuitive, insightful, sniper, good at what he does. He helps me out. Not just with my stuff, but even with my clients. He'll listen over and be like, this is what he's dealing with. Try that. I'm like, whoa. And he's a very intuitive, sensitive person, and he always tried flirting with this one waitress, and she'd curve him every time. The day he comes in with the feelings of authenticity, which is the highest vibration. I don't know who told me that. Who told me authenticity was the highest vibration? Was it you? Yeah, but it's the thing that we reject the most about ourselves. And what does that create when you reject something that's authentic? And like an intensity. It's like you're pissing off a dog. You're shaking a hornet's nest. It's not loved. It's provoked. It's just, it has to be. So he walks into the restaurant. The girl comes up to him and goes, I missed you so much. Where have you been? And it was the one time he let it go. I promise you guys this. I struggled so much. I want connection as much as you guys do. I know the process. I know what it takes. I'm there on the front lines with you. I'm young. I'm not going to say I'm 35 or 40. You guys are older than me. I have something special. And I'll speak about the things that I know that can definitely really help you guys with the age and experience that you do have. Because that counts for something, I promise you. You guys can make changes in a day. You don't need to find out. You already did. Some things maybe I need to find out, and I will. And I look forward to those days. And I can share it with you guys, God willing, when we grow old. We can continue having these conversations. A collective conversation where we all did our best to strive and connect with the divine. Because that's actually the story of our lives. It's not the story about the people that we had a connection with, but how there was a godly essence of every individual that we were surrounded by, and we were able to feel that connection with them. And it brought us to a deeper connection with ourselves until eventually we're no longer speaking with ourselves, we're speaking with something outside of ourselves. I struggle tremendously, so much, with intimacy, with women, in relationship to that. You know, of course, within the societal spectrum of women, I'm a professional. Within the intimate context that nobody wants to talk about, I'm an 8-year-old now. I was a 6-year-old 4 months ago. I'm still a long way to go. And I could tell you one thing that comes with that. Well, yeah, a lot of sadness. And also, I promise you this much though. I do embrace that. I have to. And I think about it sometimes. If I just had it land on my feet today, would I be satisfied? And I want you guys to ask yourself that question. The answer is no. Because you know that there's something in you that you need to connect deeper with that allows you to be free. To be free. Not free from what it means to you, but to be free from that being what controls you. Things have value. Let your zeros in your account bring a smile to your face. Let the car you drive light you up like as if you were an 8-year-old getting into your dream car. Let the woman you're with amplify every aspect of your existence. But please, don't make these things a God above you. That's when you immediately lose all of them. And you also forget what you're truly connected to is what sustains everything around you. There's a scarcity issue that exists the deeper you guys go. Of course, that's why you don't want to go there. The darker it gets, the further you get from it. Do you guys want to know what happens the deeper you go? You get to experience the freedom you've always desired. And you no longer are at the whim of that condition from life. You are now living unconditionally with something that you can give unconditionally. You're free. And we undermine that. You know, the story of Abraham and Isaac, and this is going to be for because sacrifice is a very interesting thing, and it's the concept, it's the core concept by which one creates a life of beauty, a life where they have everything. You know, Abraham wasn't Abraham. Actually, at first it was Abram. That was his first name. And his wife wasn't Sarah, it was Sarai. Do you know what happened in the process of him fighting kings and getting his wife back from those who would try to capture her and saving his nephew and watching a city go down into and doing goodness and fighting wars? God goes, hey, I want to bestow my covenant with you. And this time deeper. At first he gives him a tier 1, like a tier 3. Hey, you're special. I want to make a great nation out of you. Progresses. You're really, really special. I want to make a nation more numerous than the stars in the sky. And another one. I'm going to make the woman that you love get pregnant and have your son, who I will make a great nation out of. and I will create my personal intimate covenant with you with no separation. And he presents the circumcision, which is what? What's the one thing all men compare to their heart? Right? It's a great way to be loved. But hey, no separation. And that's how your heart needs to be with life if you want to be considered strong men. If you truly want to have that connection, you circumcise your heart. And what's the embodiment of circumcising your heart as men? Well, a little bit off the top. I don't know, we're not going to talk about circumcision collectively, but the symbolism is very, very important. He then changes his name from Abram to Abraham, an incorporation of the divine. He integrated it. H. We understand that to be one of the most significant ones for the Yud-He, Vav-He, being the name of God. An incorporation of that divinity into his physical. By the way, if you think about you think about how dreadful life was back then, like in a lot of ways it was. Like it's just climbing hills, down, up. Like if you experience consciousness, you're probably like, oh, but like he was the first person to be willing to sacrifice. And so then of course, he's given this beautiful boy and his name is Isaac. You know why? When Abraham was told this, he laughed. And Isaac means my laughter. And of course, his wife laughs too. The son grows old, he's weaned. He matures. You know what God tells Abraham? Take him, the one you love most, just so you don't forget, the one I promised a great nation from. Take him to the top of Mount Horeb and sacrifice him to me. He climbs up the hill with his son, and the son goes, hey, where's the ram for sacrifice? And he goes, don't worry, it'll be up there. He bounds his son. He extends his hand. And God intervenes. And by the way, you guys are going to love this. When he was willing to take that knife and get it as close as he could to the body of the thing that he loved most, God goes, no, not for a second you do that. Your willingness to do that shows me that my covenant with you will be everlasting. And I will bless you with everything. Do you want to know why he was blessed with everything then and not before? And you're like, but he had the kid before. It's because he was also given freedom from that even being held above his life. And if you guys want to experience that kind of freedom, maybe take the things that you consider to be your whole life, the accumulation of you, put that up on the rock on the top of a hill. Extend your hand out to it like as if you would. And there's a true test of your faith. And not just a true test of your faith, about what you'd be willing to do in order to be free. And if that fundamental essence of freedom isn't there, you could say goodbye to love. And we all strive towards that. At the very core essence, free will, freedom. I don't care how free and naked you could run around in your house on mushrooms. I care that you can make cognitive choices that exist outside of a meaningless existence, that are eternal, that change the very essence of your life and the people around you. The main theme of today, before we guys get into the question, is how much can you open up? How much can we share? How much can we stop making things about ourselves when we do? How much can we start learning about ourselves when we share? You know, there's a conclusion a lot of the time when we share about things. What if we got rid of that and just shared the experience and invited the challenge and experienced the love? And we did that for every single one of us, and we could take this outside of this group, and we could actually start seeing a change in the world by which people do not rely on others. They can actually start creating a divine connection in their life. And that could start being mirrored in their life. Not as a disastrous hole of shamanistic healers who've all up because they keep rejecting the very message that's sent to them because they don't have a belief system to receive it. They don't. It's too damn much. Let's start that. Let's do it today.